The Starfish Story. A man was walking along a beach when he noticed a boy throwing starfish back into the ocean. The man asked, "Why are you doing this? There are thousands of starfish. You can't save them all." The boy replied, "I can save this one." He picked up another starfish and tossed it back into the sea. This story reminds us that even small actions can make a significant difference. The bamboo tree. A farmer planted a bamboo seed. For 5 years, he watered and nurtured it, but nothing appeared. In the 5th year, the seed finally sprouted and grew up to 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The moral is that success often requires patience and perseverance. Sometimes, growth is happening beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Thomas Edison faced many failures. Sure. Here are a few motivational stories in English. The Starfish Story. A man was walking along a beach when he noticed a boy throwing starfish back into the ocean. The man asked, "Why are you doing this? There are thousands of starfish. You can't save them all." The boy replied, "I can save this one." He picked up another starfish and tossed it back into the sea. This story reminds us that even small actions can make a significant difference. The bamboo tree. A farmer planted a bamboo seed. For 5 years, he watered and nurtured it, but nothing appeared. In the 5th year, the seed finally sprouted and grew up to 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The moral is that success often requires patience and perseverance. Sometimes, growth is happening beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Thomas Edison faced many failures before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his countless attempts, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His determination teaches us that failure is a part of the journey to success. The Two Wolves. An old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle between two wolves inside everyone. One wolf represents anger, jealousy, and fear, while the other embodies love, kindness, and joy. The grandson asked, "Which wolf wins?" The old man replied, "The one you feed." This story emphasizes the importance of nurturing positive thoughts and emotions.
Once, in a small town, lived a girl named Mia who had a fear of heights. Every time she walked near the edge of a hill or looked out from a tall building, her heart raced, and she felt paralyzed by anxiety. This fear kept her from joining her friends on hikes and adventures. One day, Mia's school organized a field trip to a nearby mountain. Excited but terrified, she hesitated to sign up. After talking to her best friend, Alex, who encouraged her to face her fears, Mia decided to go. On the day of the trip, as they climbed the winding trail, Mia felt her anxiety creep in. When they reached a lookout point, she could see the valley below, and her heart raced. Alex noticed her distress and suggested they take it one step at a time. "Let's just take a few small steps closer," he said. Mia nodded, focusing on her breathing. With each step, she learned to ground herself, reminding herself of the beauty around her rather than the height. As they neared the edge, Mia felt a mix of fear and excitement. She looked down and gasped, but then turned to Alex. "Can I hold your hand?" He smiled and took her hand. Together, they stepped to the edge. Mia closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. The view was breathtaking, the lush green valley, the distant river shimmering in the sunlight. For the first time, she felt a sense of wonder rather than fear. "See?" Alex said. "You did it." Over the next few weeks, Mia practiced facing her fear. She climbed stairs, stood on her balcony, and eventually went to a local climbing gym. Each small victory built her confidence, and with Alex's support, she learned to enjoy the thrill of being up high. Months later, the school organized another hike, this time to the summit of a taller mountain. Mia felt the familiar flutter of anxiety but remembered her journey. She shared her story with her classmates, encouraging them to face their own fears. When they reached the summit, Mia stood at the edge, her heart racing, not with fear, but with exhilaration. She realized that overcoming her fears was not about eliminating them, but learning to embrace and manage them. In that moment, she felt a sense of freedom and strength she had never known before. From that day forward, Mia became an advocate for facing fears, inspiring others to take their own steps toward overcoming what held them back.
Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young girl named Maya. She dreamed of becoming a doctor, but her family faced many hardships. Despite this, Maya worked hard in school, often studying late into the night by candlelight. One day, her teacher noticed her determination and encouraged her to apply for a scholarship. With her teacher's support, Maya submitted her application, pouring her heart into her essay about her dreams and challenges. Weeks later, she received a letter. She had been awarded the scholarship. Overjoyed, she worked even harder in her studies, often helping her classmates along the way. Years later, Maya graduated from medical school and returned to her village as a doctor. She established a clinic to provide free health care to those in need, inspiring many young girls to follow their dreams. Maya's story teaches us that perseverance and support can overcome any obstacle, proving that with determination, we can achieve our goals and make a difference in the world.
Once in a small town, there lived a young artist named Mia. She had dreams of showcasing her paintings in a grand gallery, but her lack of confidence held her back. Every day she painted in her tiny studio, pouring her heart into her work, yet she never dared to share it with anyone. One evening, while wandering through the town, Mia stumbled upon a community art exhibition. Inspired, she decided to take a leap of faith. With trembling hands, she submitted her favorite piece, a vibrant landscape that reflected her dreams. The day of the exhibition arrived, and Mia stood nervously by her painting. To her surprise, visitors were drawn to it, captivated by the emotions it evoked. A local art critic approached her, praising her talent and offering to feature her work in a larger exhibition. Mia realized that taking that first step had changed everything. Her confidence grew as she continued to create and share her art. Eventually, she held her own exhibition, filled with people who admired her journey. Through her story, Mia learned that the only limits are the ones we impose on ourselves. By believing in her talent and taking risks, she transformed her dreams into reality, inspiring others to do the same. How to be happy. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young woman named Clara. Despite her beautiful surroundings, she often felt unhappy. One day, she decided to seek advice from the village elder, known for his wisdom. Clara approached him and said, "I want to be happy, but I don't know how." The elder smiled and replied, "Happiness is not found, it is created." Let me share a few secrets. First, he advised her to practice gratitude. Each morning, write down 3 things you are thankful for. This will shift your focus to the positive. Clara took his advice and soon noticed a change. She felt lighter and more appreciative of her life. Next, the elder suggested connecting with others. Spend time with friends and family, share laughter, and support one another. Clara organized a small gathering, and the joy she felt during that time was unforgettable. She realized that relationships were vital to her happiness. Finally, he told her to pursue her passions. Find what brings you joy and make time for it. Whether it's painting, gardening, or reading, do what you love. Clara began painting again, a hobby she had neglected. With each brushstroke, her happiness grew. As time passed, Clara transformed her life. She learned that happiness comes from within and is nurtured by gratitude, connection, and passion. From that day on, Clara became a beacon of happiness in the village, inspiring others to seek their own joy. And so, she lived happily ever after. Flexion. This story reminds us that happiness is a choice and can be cultivated through simple, meaningful actions. Sure, Here's a motivational story about learning English in Canada. When Maria first arrived in Canada, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. The bustling streets of Toronto were alive with people speaking English, and she often felt lost in translation. Having studied English back home, she knew the basics, but communicating effectively seemed daunting. Determined to improve, Maria enrolled in an immersive English course. The first few weeks were challenging. She struggled to understand native speakers and hesitated to participate in class discussions. But every day, she reminded herself of her goal, to connect with others and embrace her new life in Canada. One day, her teacher announced a group project. Maria was nervous, but she partnered with two classmates. They spent hours working together, and she realized how much she could learn from their conversations. They encouraged her to share her thoughts, and gradually, she found her voice. Outside the classroom, Maria sought out opportunities to practice. She joined a local book club, where she read and discussed novels in English. At first, she felt intimidated by the vocabulary, but with every meeting, her confidence grew. The supportive environment allowed her to express her opinions and ask questions without fear of making mistakes. One afternoon, she volunteered at a community event. As she greeted visitors and engaged in conversations, Maria felt a sense of belonging. She was no longer just a learner, she was part of a community. The smiles and friendly exchanges fueled her motivation even further. Months passed, and Maria's English skills improved significantly. One day, while chatting with a friend at a cafe, she realized she had effortlessly switched to English without even thinking about it. That moment was a turning point. She felt empowered and proud of her progress. Looking back, Maria understood that her journey was not just about learning a language. It was about overcoming fears, making connections, and embracing new experiences. Canada had not only taught her English, but it had also shown her the value of persistence and the joy of community. Today, Maria confidently navigates her life in Canada, sharing her story with others who are just beginning their own journeys. She often reminds them, every step counts. Embrace the challenges, and you will find your voice. I hope this story inspires you on your language learning journey. Sure, here's a story about learning English with tips included. Title: My Journey to Learning English. When I first arrived in Canada, I was determined to learn English quickly. I knew that immersing myself in the language was the best way to achieve this. Tip 1. Join intensive classes. I enrolled in an intensive English course. The classes were every day and focused on speaking, listening, and grammar. The teachers were native speakers, which helped me learn the correct pronunciation. Tip 2. Practice speaking with locals. Outside of class, I joined a language exchange group. I met Canadians who wanted to learn my language. Practicing with them not only improved my speaking skills, but also built my confidence. I learned to ask questions and have conversations about everyday topics. Tip 3. Use media to learn. To enhance my listening skills, I started watching English movies and TV shows. I chose ones with subtitles at first. This helped me understand the context and pick up new phrases. I also listened to English music, trying to sing along to improve my pronunciation. Tip 4. Keep a journal. I began writing a journal in English. At first, my sentences were simple, but I gradually started using more complex structures. Writing helped me organize my thoughts and learn new vocabulary. Tip 5. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I realized that making mistakes was part of learning. Whenever someone corrected me, I saw it as an opportunity to improve. I became more comfortable speaking without fear of errors. As the months passed, I noticed significant progress. I could have conversations easily and even made friends who supported my learning journey. Looking back, I realized that the key to my success was staying motivated and embracing every opportunity to practice. By the time I returned home, I was proud of how far I had come. I had not only learned English, but also gained valuable experiences and friendships.
A young man's journey to learning English in the United States. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Carlos who moved from Mexico to the United States with a dream to master the English language. He arrived in Los Angeles, excited but also nervous about the challenges ahead. At first, Carlos struggled. He could understand a few words but found it hard to speak. To improve, he enrolled in an English language school. His teachers were kind and encouraged him to practice every day. In class, he made friends from various countries, and together they formed a study group. They would often practice speaking during lunch breaks, sharing stories about their cultures. Eager to immerse himself in the language, Carlos decided to explore the city. He visited local cafes and parks, where he practiced ordering food and asking for directions. One day, he struck up a conversation with a barista at a coffee shop. Although he stumbled over his words, the barista was patient and helped him with pronunciation. That small interaction gave Carlos a boost of confidence. To further enhance his learning, Carlos started watching English movies and TV shows with subtitles. At first, he struggled to follow along, but soon he began to pick up new vocabulary and phrases. He laughed at the jokes and felt a sense of accomplishment when he understood the plot. As time passed, Carlos made friends with some locals. They invited him to join them for weekend outings, like hiking and attending concerts. With every interaction, his English improved. He learned to joke and share stories, feeling more at home in the language. 1 year later, Carlos was amazed at how far he had come. He could converse fluently and had built meaningful connections. Looking back, he realized that every challenge had shaped his journey. Learning English in the United States was not just about the language, it was about embracing new experiences and building friendships. Carlos was no longer just a young man in a foreign country, he had become part of a vibrant community.
Title: Learning English in Canada. In a small town in Canada, Maria had just moved from Mexico. She was excited but also nervous about learning English. Determined to improve her language skills, she enrolled in a local language school. On her first day, Maria met her classmates from different countries. They shared stories and practiced speaking together, creating a supportive environment. Her teacher, Mr. Johnson, encouraged everyone to participate in conversations, helping Maria gain confidence. Every Saturday, the school organized language exchange events where students could practice English with native speakers. Maria met a friendly Canadian named Liam, who loved to explore. They went on weekend hikes, during which Maria practiced her English while enjoying the beautiful nature. Maria also immersed herself in Canadian culture. She watched movies, listened to music, and read books in English. She even joined a local book club, where discussions helped her expand her vocabulary. Over time, Maria noticed her skills improving. She felt more comfortable speaking and understood more during conversations. Her newfound confidence allowed her to make friends and connect with her community. By the end of the year, Maria had not only learned English but also found a second home in Canada. She realized that with determination and the support of others, she could overcome any challenge. Emma had always been drawn to stories, the whispered tales of her grandmother, the bold headlines that sparked her curiosity, and the vibrant narratives of everyday life. Growing up in a small town, she dreamed of becoming a journalist, capturing the world's truths one article at a time. After graduating college, she landed an internship at a local newspaper. Excitement surged through her as she clutched her press badge for the first time. Her mentor, an experienced journalist named Mr. Harper, warned her, "The best stories often hide in plain sight. You just have to look closely." One afternoon, while covering a town meeting, Emma noticed a woman sitting alone, scribbling in a notebook. Intrigued, she approached her during the break. The woman, Mrs. Lacey, shared her story, a fight to save the town's only library from closure due to budget cuts. Emma's heart raced. This was the story she had been searching for. She spent the next few weeks gathering interviews, piecing together the community's love for the library and the memories tied to its shelves. Her passion ignited further as she learned about the library's role in nurturing young minds and bringing people together. When her article was published, the town rallied in support. Petitions circulated, and town meetings filled with concerned citizens. Emma watched as her words sparked change, and for the first time, she felt the power of journalism in her hands. Her piece was featured on the front page, and she stood in awe as her story unfolded into a movement. Mrs. Lacey thanked her, tears in her eyes, saying, "You gave us a voice." In that moment, Emma knew she had found her purpose. She wasn't just a journalist, she was a storyteller, a catalyst for change. And as the sun set over her small town, she realized that her journey had just begun. Once upon a time, in a small village bordering a vast forest, lived a curious boy named Leo. One sunny afternoon, driven by a sense of adventure, he wandered deeper into the woods than he ever had before. The trees towered above him, their leaves whispering secrets in the wind. As he explored, he marveled at the vibrant flowers and the chorus of birds. But as the sun began to dip behind the horizon, Leo realized he had strayed too far from home. Panic crept in as he turned to retrace his steps, only to find the familiar paths had vanished. The forest, once enchanting, now felt daunting. With dusk settling, he spotted a small clearing and decided to rest. He took a deep breath, trying to quell his fear, and listened to the sounds of the forest. In the distance, he heard a gentle stream. Summoning his courage, he decided to follow the sound, hoping it would lead him to safety. As he walked, he stumbled upon a family of deer, their eyes wide with curiosity but not fear. Leo felt a sense of calm wash over him. He continued on, guided by the moonlight that filtered through the trees. Suddenly, he noticed a soft glow ahead. It was a small cottage, nestled among the trees. Knocking hesitantly, he was greeted by an elderly woman with kind eyes. She welcomed him in, offering warm tea in a place by the fire. As they talked, Leo shared his adventure and fears. The woman listened, nodding knowingly. She revealed that she had once been lost in the forest too, but kindness and bravery had guided her home. The next morning, after a hearty breakfast, the woman offered to help Leo find his way back. They followed the stream together, and soon they reached a familiar path. The sun shone brightly, illuminating the way home. When Leo finally emerged from the forest, he felt a newfound strength within him. He rushed home, where his worried parents embraced him. He shared his adventure, thankful for the wise woman who had helped him. From that day on, Leo never feared the forest again. He had learned that even in moments of uncertainty, courage and kindness could light the way home.